Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here with DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, and today we're checking out WWF Smackdown 2, Know Your Role for the PlayStation. Let's get into it.
Released in 2000, this was developed by Ukes and published by THQ. It's the sequel to the first Smackdown. Actually, this one added a lot more to the game, a lot more elements.
Hey, Jim.
What?
That's WWF Smackdown, just bring it. Let's be fucking professional here.
Right, did you know Val Venus' real name is Sean Morley?
Yes, I did.
Well, there you go. Anyway, let's see how this game holds up.
As always, when talking about graphics, I gotta compare the original game against this, and I don't know, side by side, you can tell a pretty clear difference. What do you think, Jim? Do you think it looks a little better?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you think!
The bad part is I legitimately walked into that. I fucking... Not only do I hate you, I hate myself more. God damn it. God damn it!
Alright, it's out of my system. Anyway, yeah, so both games...
Damn it!
It's a whole new engine from the Attitude Warzone, and this is what really would launch the SmackDown series, which would eventually meld itself into the WWE 2K and, yeah, all the current games. This is really the engine that kind of started it off. Obviously, it's different now, but as you can tell, there's more detail. However, Jim and I actually felt like, even with more detail, somehow the smoothness of the textures from like WWF Attitude kind of got lost in translation. Where this game makes up for, though, is the arenas themselves have a lot more scope to them. You move around freely, and the actual animations of your wrestlers are now really smooth. They have alternating camera angles when you do special moves, which is actually gives it more of a cinematic feel versus just a typical arcadey feel. And this is where wrestling games would kind of stay, except for some exceptions, which we'll get to, obviously. All in all, it's really not a bad package, and considering that this was still on the PlayStation, we actually didn't mind it. We thought it was well above average. So, we both gave it an 8. That cinematic camera, just the sheer number of people you can have, and the smoothness of the animations is where we really kept that score that high. And when it comes to beer, I'm just going to add 1 for Jim, since he needs to know his role and shut his mouth.
Anyway, the sound. Again, a decent package. Oddly enough, you don't have announcer commentary in this, which is really weird at this point in time, because you had it in a lot of the other games at this point.
Jim, they put your precious music back in there.
There is music during the matches, and the music you get during the title sequences and all the menus is fine. It gets the job done, nothing special, but at least it isn't weird. The music during the entrances is, CD quality, so it's damn near perfect. And the sound effects in games are big and I almost want to say bombastic.
That's fine.
Anyway, yeah, the sound effects are good, the music in the game's good. There's no commentary, but the overall package just sounds like a really deep and, it's of the time. It's when crowds were really hot for wrestling, so it gets that feeling across well. Overall, we both gave it 7s. And when it comes to beer, I'll just give it 1 sad beer for lack of announcer commentary.
The control. Well, as I said, with this new engine and just the smoothness of the animation, a lot of it actually stems from how goddamn smooth these controls are. I will say, this is one of the fastest paced wrestling games we've both played. Now, most people are really just used to the slower style, especially if you grew up on the N64 games like Jim did, and this was just probably a little too fast-paced. I agree, obviously, you should not see Bubba Ray Dudley running this fast, or you should not see The Undertaker sliding under Kane's legs this fast. But with that fast-pacedness, it makes everything, I think, a little more tense. And then once you learn the reversal button, you can get into these reversal chains that are just a staple of a lot of more modern wrestling games. And you know what? Jim and I felt this game controlled almost perfectly. The actual input is once again that simplified style of you have an attack button, you can modify it with your directions. If you hold it in, it's a stronger attack. And then you have your grapples in a certain direction, they do certain moves. It's a little bit of a complicated system because they utilize so many buttons, but once you master it, there is nothing wrong with it. So as you see from the score, I gave it a 9, Jim gave it an 8. I thought it was damn near perfect. Jim just hated on it because he got his ass whooped again. And as far as beer, I'm not even going to add 1. I think this game controls just fine.
Alright, the gameplay. I guess I'll get this out of the way first. It actually runs a tiny bit slower than the original Smackdown, which to me is a good thing. Because while it's still really fast, it's a little bit more manageable than the first. You still have the set numbers of specials and the ones that you can start with, which is always fun to make it just ridiculous. It's not a simulation game, it's definitely more of the fast-paced, arcadey kind of wrestling games, but this does it really, really well. There are a ton of modes in this game. You have a nice season mode with all the different branching paths. You have all the special matches like Hell in a Cells and Slobber Knockers and casket matches and special referees and just a ton of shit. The game actually also greatly enhanced the creative wrestler of the first game as well, letting you get down to the real nitty-gritty when it comes to making your own person. Besides the fact you can create managers and pay-per-views and taunts and stables and movesets and blah. Holy shit, there's a lot here. If I had any complaints, I don't know, nothing really comes to mind. So when it comes to gameplay, we both gave it 9s. It's just a fantastic title. And when it comes to beers, I'll just add 1 beer because all this fast-paced action is making me all hot and bothered. And I need to cool down.
Like your mother.
Wow.
Once again, originality is a downfall of this game, but let's be honest, Jim already touched on it. Considering this was just a follow-up to Smackdown and it was just a year after, this game still managed to be the most unique creator wrestler mode at the time. With eliminating just the atypical mix and match different body parts, you could actually morph and change the face, the body. There was just so many more options added here. Not to mention the create a manager mode. Managers obviously at this era in wrestling really played such a stronger part, so this game wanted to add that little feature in there. The stables, the pay-per-views, and just the overarching storylines. And it's something Jim and I actually kind of miss from more current wrestling games is, why did they get rid of story mode so much? I don't get it. But either way, we both gave it a 4. As far as beer, I'm not going to add 1. As I said about WWF Attitude, I think this game did fine just coming out a year after the original Smackdown.
When the hell did D-Lo team with Mosh? Oh, anyway, for playability, yeah, holy shit are there a lot of game mode options here. All the creator wrestler, all the game modes, all the wrestlers you can play as, just, it's content out the ass. So we both gave it 10s. You don't need any beer. Holy shit, there's a lot to play with here.
So overall, what can I say? We both really love this game. This is another one like WWF Attitude. If you're just watching the clips, the graphics might not appeal to you and you might think it's just a mess, but there is so much fun when you're playing this, especially if you're playing against a buddy. Unless, of course, you're Jim and you're playing against me in a Royal Rumble.
Shut mouth!
Jim, what happened this Royal Rumble?
I got cucked, Brian. That's what happened. I got cucked.
Would you say the better man won?
No, I would not say that.
Then what would you say, Jim? It doesn't matter what you would say! But overall, honestly, if you have a PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and you enjoy wrestling, there is no excuse not to get this game. I know for a fact it's still cheap. Whether you like the roster or not really doesn't matter because you can create whoever you want. It's just probably the greatest wrestling game for the PlayStation. I'll say it.
Agreed. And when it comes down to it, during this era, there's always a battle between which was the better wrestling game, this or our next review.
And one interesting little fact, this holds a certain record, doesn't it, Jim?
Well, Brian, according to my extensive research into Wikipedia, it says that it's the best-selling combat sports game on a single platform on the PlayStation with 3.2 million copies sold.
Hot damn. So, it's a good game. A lot of people actually really enjoy it. And you know what? Jim and I are right there. We both gave it 9s. You really can't go wrong with this game unless you absolutely hate wrestling. And when we combine all of our scores together, it rounds out to an 8.4. Those of you who follow our site know that's a goddamn high score. So, yeah, give it a try if you get a chance. And most likely, though, if you're watching this video, you've already played it. You know your role. You see what I did there, Jim?
I'm not saying a goddamn word. You will not rock me again.
When it comes to beer pairing, I wanted to choose something that Jim and I really enjoy, so I had to go with Not Your Father's Root Beer. And I'm talking about the one that's over 10%. A game like this deserves a really good beer, so get yourself at least 1 or 2 bottles of this, and we guarantee you'll have a night filled with fun. But remember to drink your beers and play your games responsibly. As always, guys, thanks for checking out this video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure you give us a thumbs up, leave some comments, or better yet, why not subscribe? Till next time, guys, cheers.